You're listening to the Uplevel Your Online Business Show, where wealth is empowering, purpose is crucial, and high vibes are non-negotiable. And now, here's your host, certified business coach and practical woo strategist, Sarah J. Loureiro.
Welcome back to another episode of the Uplevel Your Online Business Show. This episode is going to be all about motivation in your business and how to get it back, and if you actually really need it after all. So I also wanted to say, disclaimer here, that I am coming to you and recording this episode not having a ton of motivation to record it. And I think that this is one of the most helpful things that I could do for you with this episode as well, because I want to talk to you about the importance of motivation, if we actually need it all the time, and how to get your motivation back when you're going through a slump. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is motivation actually even important? And it's interesting because I was just listening to a ton of podcasts a few days ago while I was driving down to the beach. And one thing that kind of came up over and over again was that, motivation isn't actually a marker of success. And I think that's so interesting. And if you think about it this way too, if you were to only, let's say, go to the gym when you were motivated to go to the gym, do you think that you'd get the results that you want if you were only going when you were motivated? Could you imagine that, right? Just like waking up every morning being like, nope, not motivated, going back to sleep. Waking up the next morning being like, nope, not motivated, going back to sleep. And maybe working out once or twice a week, you wouldn't have the same results as if you were to work out every single day. As if, when you wake up, your alarm goes off and you're like, okay, not motivated. And you're like, okay, no, I'm going to go anyways because I know what this means to me. I know what going to the gym means to me on a daily basis. And so I truly believe that motivation is not a marker of success. And I've been through it. And I think that one thing that a lot of people seem to find really inspiring about my work is that I've been online since 2015. And you guys, I haven't taken more than usually a few days off of social media at a time. Now, mind you, I do have a team obviously now that is working for me. And so I don't spend a lot of time on social media. I definitely don't spend as much time. But I think one thing that I can really pride myself in is being so consistent, where people have always heard from me every single week for the past 8 years, which to me sounds incredible. The fact that I've been keeping this up for 8 years. And that really comes down to the fact that sometimes I'm not motivated to work, but I show up and do work anyways. And that is a marker of success. So whether or not you feel motivated should not be an indicator of whether or not you actually go out and do the work. And sometimes motivation comes as a result of doing the work. And one way that I love explaining this to my clients is even likening motivation to the creative process and really feeling like you're creative enough, because they're very similar, right? Motivation and creativity. It's like, well, I'm not creative enough. I'm not motivated enough to do this. I'm not inspired today to do this thing. And what I think personally is that being creative enough and being in a creative space and an inspiring space is often a crutch for a lot of people. And it's a myth. Because you think, okay, well, I'm not creative, I'm not motivated today. Sometimes that's just a fear that's holding you back. And so you're kind of just saying, I need to be in the right energy all the time. And I'm doing air quotes while I'm saying this, because it's this whole idea that if you're not in the right energy all the time, if you don't feel good all of the time, you shouldn't create content. You shouldn't put yourself out there. You shouldn't think of new creative ideas. And it's also the whole idea of writer's block, right? You sit down to the computer and you try to write and you can't write. And you're like, oh, damn, I got writer's block. Now I have to take a break. You end up taking a break for 3 hours. The next morning you wake up and you're just like, I still don't feel creative. I'm not going to write. And then it's just this procrastination that ends up happening. And so I'm going to share with you 2 different schools of thought around this, because I also totally understand that for some of you, and depending on your circumstance, you do need to get remotivated and you do need to get that mojo back. And so I'm going to talk to that specific type of creativity in a second. But first, I want to talk about the discipline of motivation and the discipline of creativity. So there is a book that I recommend to a lot of my clients who are struggling with finding the right energy and being in the right space to do things and to be motivated to do things. This book is called The Creative Habit. It's by Twyla Tharp. It was recommended to me. I read it years ago, and I'm talking like when I was in the beginning of my business, and it really, really helped me. And so there's kind of two different schools of thought in terms of creativity and motivation. One is you need to have this like magic genie in your head. And I think Elizabeth Gilbert also talks about this like genie that's in your head. And it's essentially, she only writes when she has this creative person in her head. So when the creativity sparks, doesn't matter what she's doing, she has to stop what she's doing and she has to write. And you know what? There's no right or wrong answer here. I think that we could be both schools of thought at different times when they serve us. But the whole creative genie aspect or the whole creative genie idea is that you can only create when you have that creativity spark inside of you. And it has to be that spark that you have. And so that works really well for people who are kind of not really doing anything else. Maybe if you have a lot of time to be focusing on, let's say, for example, a book, and if that's kind of the way that your energy flows. What I find though, is that type of creativity and relying on that for your creativity and motivation can lead to crutches, especially when you're brand new in business, especially when you're looking to grow and you know that inconsistency is something that you can struggle with in terms of getting things done. And so the reason why I love The Creative Habit so much by Twyla Tharp is because she actually talks about how creativity is a discipline and motivation is a discipline. And it's not actually this like thing that just gets sent to you. It's something that you have to create out of habit. So you create the motivation out of habit. And what she talks about is going to the dance studio every single morning at 5 or 6 in the morning. And no matter what, she goes to the dance studio, she shows up, even if she isn't motivated. And then from showing up and doing the work and doing her choreography, does she then get into a creative mode and starts to get motivated. And you can even liken this to going to the gym. I don't know if any of you have experienced this, but going to the gym or doing some sort of physical activity. I know that I experience this when I go out for a run. And so even when I start my run and I'm like, okay, I'm so unmotivated to run, right? Could you imagine if everyone who like was training for marathons and half marathons decided in the morning, well, I just don't feel motivated to run today, so I'm just not going to do it. None of them would have any great scores. None of them would even be able to finish because you have to have the discipline to really see something through. And so do not let a lack of motivation destroy your discipline because discipline can build motivation. And I think that's one of the biggest keys to this school of thought. And so let's say, for example, you're going for a run and at first you're like, I hate it. I'm not motivated to do this. I don't want to do this run at all. But then 10 minutes in, you get into your runner's high and you're like, oh, okay, yep, here it is. The endorphins come. You feel motivated again. You're like, yes, okay, it's here. But that would only happen, and that can only happen when you do the first 10 minutes of the run that you don't want to do, that you don't feel motivated to do. So motivation comes through discipline and is not the result of not having discipline. Okay. So motivation works itself through discipline a lot of the times and not the other way around. Does that make sense? I hope that it does. So same thing with the gym, right? You wake up in the morning, you don't really want to go to the gym. You go to the gym. It's like you do your first few sets and you're like, oh, I hate this. And sometimes, yeah, you go through your all of your reps, all of your sets, and then you get out of the gym and you're just like, yep, I hated it, but at least I got it done, right? Most of the time though, you go to the gym, you do some of your sets, and all of a sudden you're like, boom, motivation. Music is in your ears. You're getting all of these inspiring ideas. You feel really good about yourself. And oh my goodness, look at that. You didn't actually need the motivation to begin. You just needed to have the discipline to begin that allowed you to carry on with your motivation. And so that's one school of thought that I really try to go with first in a lot of scenarios, especially as a business owner, because it is so important. And it kind of goes back to how like motivation first isn't necessarily the marker for success. Discipline and focus first are. And so if you have the discipline and focus first, you can discipline yourself to finding motivation within the act of discipline itself and within the act of doing itself. And if you can get yourself to that point consistently, you will start to see how, okay, motivation first is actually a myth, and it's not necessarily something that you need in order to be successful and to be inspired and be high energy. Sometimes being inspired and being high energy is a result of doing the things and doing the things that you don't really want to do. So that is a huge, huge, huge tip that I can give all of you, is understanding that motivation isn't the marker for success. Discipline and focus are. And so that's a really, really great thing that you can implement if you find yourself being inconsistent, or if you find yourself lacking motivation and you just kind of know that you need to work through it. Now, there are also going to be times in your business and in your life where you don't feel motivated, and by doing more might actually not help you as much because you're just doing. And so even with the example of the gym, or let's say, for example, running, if you find yourself consistently in the place where you're pushing and you're halfway through your run and you're still not motivated, or you're halfway through your gym session and you're still not motivated, and that happens consistently. So that happens a lot. Okay. That is a sign that you need the creative genius. And what I usually say with this is, when you are not motivated from that place, even when you're working consistently, that is a sign that you need to refresh yourself with feminine energy. And what I mean by this is, that's usually a sign of burnout, or a sign of, not necessarily burnout, but like you're edging towards that. You're edging towards burnout. You're edging towards overwhelm, and you need a refresh. You need a completely different state of mind. You need a new environment. You need something new. Okay. So if you're being really, really consistent and you're not feeling motivated because you're being so consistent and all you're doing is doing, you need to focus on your being in order to re-motivate yourself. And so I hope that helps in terms of like the differentiation between when you should use each school of thought. But when you are feeling like you are doing, you're not motivated, what I personally find works the best in these situations is doing something new and acting in a completely new way. And this could be, I need to get off of my computer, turn everything off, and I need to go for a walk. Or I need to get outside and I need to take my shoes off and I need to ground my feet in the grass so that I can feel connected to the earth. This might be, I've been working all day. I haven't actually done my workout. I need to go for my run, right? Get my endorphins up, get my motivation up. It could also be, I just need to take a break. Right? I need to take a 2-day break. I need to do things that I enjoy. I need to indulge in myself, indulge in the pleasures of life, and really get myself to a place where I'm like, okay, now that I've allowed all of the stress and all of the doing to subside, and I'm allowing myself to sit in a calm state, how can I now re-motivate myself? Or how can I now utilize these other energies that I have now that I don't have so much on my plate? I'm letting everything reset to zero and giving myself this reset. You will find that if that's the type of person that you are, once you allow yourself to reset, it's like, oh my goodness, all of these different ideas are coming into my brain, right? It's like having all of the beautiful ideas for your business when you're in the shower. And the reason why is because you're just enjoying your shower. You're enjoying the nice warm water on your skin. You're enjoying the scent of your soap. You're enjoying, like putting your exfoliation cream like on your body or whatever it is that you do in the shower. You're just enjoying that self-indulgence of taking care of yourself and not even thinking about the different tasks that you have to do in the day. That's why that becomes such a motivating place. It's almost like when you are climbing a mountain, going for a hike, and then all of a sudden you see the peak and it's so beautiful. And you just get a sense of just sitting there and just being with that presence, being with that space, being with that scenery. And all of a sudden, once again, you reset yourself because you're no longer focusing on those daily tasks and the do. And then your brain can be like, ooh, expansion. Okay. Yes, I'm in this new feminine energy. I can see all of these different things that I wasn't able to see when I was only doing. And yes, now these new things are coming to me. These new ideas are coming to me and they're flowing to me. And sometimes that isn't even just like going out on a mountaintop and looking at the sunrise or whatever in terms of having the motivation be this external thing. Sometimes it's also, what am I doing in my business that I don't really enjoy? Or what am I doing in my business that feels completely monotonous and just feels so blah and just feels like something that I'm dragging my feet with. And how can I stop doing those things or maybe outsource those things and start doing something fresh and brand new? And so when you're doing the same thing over and over and over again in your business and you're feeling like, okay, it kind of is getting me results, or I do need to continue to do it to get results, but everything just feels really flat. Thinking of something brand new, like thinking of a brand new live training or a challenge or an offer that you can do for your community can often really help to get your motivation flowing again, because it's just like something new. And so that something new sparks creativity, and creativity sparks motivation. It sparks excitement. And so if you can think to yourself, okay, I'm doing all these things, they're working or they're helping, and I know that they're helping, but I just feel like this huge lack of motivation and I just want to get more excitement into my business, then by all means, focus on something new. Maybe it's creating a podcast. Maybe it's doing a free training. Maybe it's doing a free offering. Maybe it's reconnecting with your community. But doing something different than all of the things that feel monotonous is also a really, really great way to re-spark motivation for yourself. And so I often do this. And to me and for me, it often looks like a new training. So if I feel like, okay, yeah, we're making really good money and we're, signing on clients and everything's going really well, but I feel a disconnect from my business, or I feel a lack of motivation in my business currently, oftentimes I will go through the list of things that I've just been telling you about, but I'll also ask myself, well, what is a way that can get me really excited about the business again? What is one new thing that I can do that maybe tweaks my skills or allows me to do something different? And sometimes that doing something different is even investing. It's investing in a new program. It's investing in a new mentor and a new coach. And then it's just like you fill yourself up with excitement again because it's something new, right? So if you've been doing the thing over and over and over again, and if you've been creating motivation from discipline, but then that isn't working for you anymore, doing something new, investing in something new, trying something new in your business can just be so exciting. And so I would just jot down a few different things that you would love to try in your business that feel really exciting to you, and choose one of them and implement it for the next 30 days, and then see how the motivation and the energy kind of starts to come back into your body, come back into your spirit, come back into your business. And, sometimes that really is investing in something new, but sometimes it's also, offering your community something completely different. So I hope that all of this helped you. As you can see, there's so many different ways to solve this problem, but ultimately what you also need to do is just be self-aware enough where you understand where you're holding yourself back. Is it because you're doing too much? Is it because you're not trying something new? Or is it because you aren't consistent enough and just need to get into the discipline so that the discipline can then bring you motivation from the act of doing something consistently? So I will leave that to you. And that's really something that you need to sit with for yourself and sit with in terms of your habits, in terms of the way that you've always done things, in terms of your own autopilot, and then assess from there. So thank you so much for listening. If you liked this episode, it would mean the world to me if you left a review, liked it, and hit subscribe, or shared it with your friends. You can always connect with me on Instagram. It's at Sarah without an H, J, Loureiro. Thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Uplevel Your Online Business Show. If you enjoy our show and would like the show notes and free goodies about how to grow your online coaching business, head over to sarahjloureiro.com for more information. We hope you'll tune in next time.